And away we go. So let's do the countdown, shall we?
On with the countdown.
Climbing to number 17.
Holding steady at number 17. That's the thing.
Got to get past number 17.
Or number 15 or number 11. You're at the cusp of the top 10.
Almost in the top 10.
And then you stall there. That's it. That's as popular as you're going to get.
Right. Well, we are talking about numbers on today's show.
Yeah.
So I guess it is kind of fitting.
As I told a friend today, numbers are my happy place. Good numbers especially. The question is, are these going to be good numbers we're talking about? Because we're going to dive into Russell Wilson here.
Yes.
And what we expect he might do.
What do we expect? And yes, that's right. Today on Orange and Blue Today, presented by Sean Honda, we are going to call our shot. Cecil Lammey, Andrew Mason, and Russell Wilson's numbers. Everyone's excited coming off that big CU win. Are the Broncos under more pressure because of what Deion did? Listen, Sean Payton was all business on Monday.
He said he didn't watch the CU game. And a lot of people didn't. I mean, I can say this for people in the NFL, that Labor Day weekend that you get now on the schedule where basically everything goes dark from Friday to Sunday, he wouldn't have been the only one who totally got away from
It's
football.
the smallest bit of window that you have in that industry.
I watched very little college football this weekend.
But also, and his dear friend Jimmy Buffett passed, and Sean Payton had played the bongos on stage with Jimmy Buffett before more than once. And when asked about, would you play some Jimmy Buffett at practice, he was like, we don't talk about music. Like, he was so brief during the Zoom call on Monday, Mace.
3 minutes and 59 seconds. That's all that was.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was in and out, and the answers were short. Hey, if you didn't want to be there, you didn't want to be there. You kind of had to do it. It's an obligation of the job. But yeah, all business, focused, moving on, turning the page, every cliche you want.
Right.
Here we go.
But today we're talking about Russell's numbers because I know a lot of fantasy football players have drafted, and we'll get to more of that a little bit later. But I think these numbers are not going to be as high as people want them to be, Mace, unless you count rushing numbers. So do you want to break this down as both, or do you want to break it down in passing numbers compared to rushing numbers? Because I think collectively, if he stays healthy, which is a big if for Russell Wilson at this age, and especially running the ball more, if you combine passing and rushing, 4,000 yards is a possibility.
Well, that's what ESPN's Mike Clay has. Of course, his voluminous file, he makes projections for every player. So
one of the best.
Let's start with his projection. 23 touchdown passes, 3 rushing touchdowns.
Okay.
So 26 total touchdowns, 11 interceptions. He rushes for 323 yards. He throws for 3874. So that is 4,197 total yards.
Okay.
And he finishes with a passer rating of 91.8. Now, I bring up the passer rating because if Russell Wilson finishes with a 91.8 rating, last year, that would have put him 15th in the league. That puts him as a very mid-tier quarterback. Of course, it would have had him slightly above Aaron Rodgers, who had a 91.1 rating last year as well. So did Dak Prescott. So did Lamar Jackson, although Lamar brings that electric threat on the ground.
Yes, that's and Lamar was also Greg Roman's offense, everybody. Under Todd Monken, things should be different. But Russell Wilson as an average quarterback, I think that's what we're dealing with here. Mm-hmm. Regardless of people thinking he's going to fill there with footballs because it's Sean Payton. No, about 3,500 yards passing is a nice number to project. And about 20 to 25 passing touchdowns is a nice number to project.
There's something else as well. Last week, Sean Payton talking about how he expects Russell Wilson's numbers to be closer to his 2021 numbers in Seattle than the 2022 numbers that he had last year in Denver. That was something he mentioned to Peter King on his podcast. Now, let's go by 2 metrics here, passer rating and QBR, the ESPN QBR rating. If he is closer to the passer rating of 2021 rather than 2022, it'll be 93.8 because he was 84.4 last year, 103.1 the year before on a scale of 0 to 158.3. One of the great mysteries of passer rating is at the top is always 158.3.
Right.
Okay. So He'd have a 93.8 rating, which last year would have placed him 12th in the NFL, just behind Ryan Tannehill, just ahead of Justin Herbert. Ooh, okay.
Justin Herbert last year running whose offense?
Joe
Lombardi's
offense. And Joe Lombardi's now here in Denver, of course.
Kellen Moore's going to unlock Justin Herbert, everybody.
So ESPN QBR, that's like the total ranking. It incorporates the rushing element. It incorporates situational adjustment as well.
QBR is more, I don't know. It's a number that I tend to gravitate more towards than quarterback rating.
It's interesting. I just wish they would show their work.
Yes.
See, at least with passer rating, I can see all the data that goes in the number. ESPN, they don't show
mystery
all their work.
Meat.
Yes. So I'm like, okay, fine. You give me this number at the end. I want to know how you got it.
Right.
And they don't share that. And that ticks me off. Anyway, I'm like a math teacher and I'm like,
math professor.
Yeah.
Math professor.
Yeah. I remember hearing that when I was a kid. Anyway. His ESPN QBR in 2021 was 60.6. That's on a 0 to 100 scale. 50 is considered average. 2022 QBR was 38.7. He went from 10th in the league to 27th in 1 year. If he is closer to 2022, as Sean Payton says, rather than 2021, that puts his rating at 49.7, which that's very mid-tier, although last year there were a lot of quarterbacks on the higher side of that. So that would have placed him 25th among 31 quarterbacks who were eligible with enough plays to qualify.
Well, and one of the reasons why we're talking about numbers, not only for fantasy purposes, but I'm thinking if he's 25th in QBR, is that what you want to keep around with 2 more years worth of money coming up guaranteed if you keep him around after this season, Mace?
This is the huge question. That's why
it's the largest question this year. It's the only answer I want.
It's not just about the wins and losses. And even then, how did he get there? Did he improve over the course of the season, or was there a declining form?
Right.
Was he on the incline or the decline? All that matters to the decision you're going to have to reach, because that being said, you don't want to move on because you don't want to have that huge dead money figure. It's $85 million of dead money if the Broncos don't have Russell Wilson on the team for the 5th day of the next league year. But then if he is, then the 2025 base salary of $37 million becomes guaranteed. So it's a question of, do you want to have a greater cash outlay and all that? And that's where, if he is a mid-tier quarterback, how he gets to mid-tier, I think, is going to be absolutely crucial in this decision.
Yes. Crucial in the decision. And how is he running Sean Payton's offense and working with Joe Lombardi? And as we mentioned with Justin Herbert, there's going to be a lot of short stuff, Mace. We can't give away anything from practice that we saw, but there's going to be some short stuff because it's Lombardi's system. And I believe I saw the number. Justin Herbert last year in attempted air yards per attempted, not the actual completions, but even the passes that were off the mark. Justin Herbert, amazing, right? We all can agree. He's awesome. He was like 30th in the league. It's Joe Lombardi, and we respect Joe and certainly respect his lineage. However, you know that you're going to get short stuff with Russell Wilson. So I think there will be some moonballs set up, but they have to be set up by a bunch of peppering underneath with those underneath routes.
Yeah, basically building up what you hope is the confidence along with the completion percentage and getting the timing right and then going from there. So someone says, well, the college professors, I had to comment, you joined me in the sport coat brigade today.
Yeah, it's all good, baby.
Yeah.
Light and sweet, right?
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
That's 2 sport coats in the last couple of shows here,
That sounds like a country song.
No, I have 2 sets of boots, I think.
Oh, there you go. It is game week. It is Raiders week. We're taking a look at the numbers. No practice today. You and I were both out at Centura Health Training Center yesterday.
Saw the beginning of practice. It was close.
Saw some stretching.
It's regular season mode now, so we only see the first.
We had it last week. We were kings. We saw everything.
I didn't want that. I wanted to go in the locker room.
Locker room was good.
We didn't get in the locker room till yesterday. Like if you told me what would allow me to do more work-wise, I would have said locker room. I know there were things that you saw and I saw on the practice field that excite us, but we couldn't do anything with them.
Yeah.
But we could do something with talking to people in the locker room.
I talked to Alex Singleton about some hair tips. He doesn't put any minerals or anything in his hair.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it's down to like his mid back.
I don't either, but I don't have long hair. I have short hair. I don't like to take longer than 10 seconds to get it ready in the morning.
Okay. Yeah,
I'm
me either.
lazy.
Anyway,
No, I don't know. I think you're cultivating something there.
maybe
I don't know.
you're cultivating something. You said incline or decline for Russell Wilson,
Yes.
and I was thinking that kid is back on the escalator.
Oh,
So,
you mean from Mallrats?
Mallrats, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't.
Russell Wilson is back on the escalator.
Yeah, but you have to fear and respect the escalator. That was the whole point of the scene,
Mhm.
because there was an accident on the escalator,
Yes.
and it was because there wasn't the proper respect for the danger of the escalator being taught. This is something that I took note of when I was a kid, but that was because my mom told me about how I think my brother, when he was a kid, got his shoe caught in the escalator at a mall. So I learned to fear and respect the escalator in a way that some kids don't.
Fear and respect Sean Payton's offense.
Mall culture doesn't really exist
It doesn't
anymore.
exist now.
No.
Yeah.
Escalators are talking about like hotels,
Right.
train stations, that sort of
That
thing.
sort of thing.
Yeah, no one goes to the mall anymore, really, or do they?
Yeah.
Eh,
There was a time.
yeah.
There was a time when people thought Russell Wilson's going to fill the air with footballs. He may, but these running backs, if we talk about from a fantasy football lens, and Mace, full disclosure, you don't play fantasy.
No.
Why don't you play fantasy? You're a numbers guy. You said numbers are your happy place. Fantasy's sometimes too much about the numbers because there's fantasy analysts out there. And I believe, was it Terry Saunders called me years ago. He's like, Cecil Lammey is a stat guy. And I'm like, I'm a film guy. But
I just got less and less enjoyment over the years. And honestly, like the other thing that came into play, it's not that I don't enjoy covering football and I don't enjoy it. I do, but I'm just like, why am I spending more time on this when there are other things in life? Why am I'm dealing with the reality of football and covering it, right? Why do I need the fantasy?
I'm dealing with the fantasy of it.
Yeah. And also the thing is, you can be a good fantasy player, but you're not necessarily good in reality, right? You're just putting
That's where people get caught up in the numbers.
Yes.
Which is what we're talking about on today's program. And it drives me up a wall as a fantasy analyst because it's all about the film. Like you can't just look at numbers. And some numbers, the way I've always put it, Mace.
By the way, you know who had a top 10 passer rating last year?
Andy
Dalton.
There you go.
He's somebody's backup right now. Carolina's backup, specifically behind Bryce Young.
Numbers must back up the film. When they do that, when it's like air yards per attempt, like when numbers back up the film, those are numbers that I can quote and I feel comfortable quoting because one, they're easily digestible.
Mm-hmm.
People don't like super complex. It's what's their ADA? It's like DVOA. Like I love DVOA. You love DVOA. Sandy loves DVOA, but you know who doesn't? Most fans. They're just like, give me something I can eat.
Where are we getting DVOA from anyway this year with Football Outsiders?
I think Aaron went over to FTN.
Okay.
So Aaron and Mike Tanier are good friends.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the best.
Yeah.
Speaking of former professors, former teachers, shout out Mike Tanier. But I look at this backfield. I'm getting a lot of fantasy football questions about what to expect from Javonte Mace. We've seen him. People, you saw him in the preseason, but maybe there's some that don't believe. Like the dude's as close to 100% as you're going to be, especially coming back from that major injury.
Yeah, and very much it's 1 and 1A at running back, with Jaleel McLaughlin probably getting some work in there as well. I think this morning when I was on Players Club on the radio side on 104.3 The Fan, I believe I said if I have to put a percentage on it, 42%, 42%, 16%.
Okay.
So Samaje Perine, Javonte Williams split at 42-42, and then the other 16, the remainder goes to Jaleel McLaughlin.
Can I float a different set of numbers for you?
Sure.
I think Samaje is a backup. I think this backfield is Javonte's and Jaleel's. And I think Samaje, for example, and we don't want this, but I look at it
now or in a month.
Now.
Okay, see,
Javonte gets
I don't think we're
banged up,
looking at this now. I think we're looking at that maybe being in a month, but I don't think we're there yet.
If Javonte gets banged up, Samaje will step into a smaller role. So whereas at the start of training camp, I said it's 50-50 Javonte Samaje. Now, I'm not saying it's 50-50 for Jaleel, but I think Samaje's role, it might, if we go in number of carries or touches, because we've got to include receptions. Let's say 15 to 17 touches for Javonte. Let's say 10 touches for Jaleel. And let's say like 5 touches for Samaje. So that gets us what, to 32? 32 touches in the backfield each game, and that includes receptions. I might actually be a little bit low on that number. Maybe it's more Jaleel and Samaje are, because you said 1 and 1A. Well, one, is there a 1B? Is there 1A, 1A, 1B? Or is it 1A, 1B, 1C? Either way, three-headed backfield, everybody. Sean Payton's done it before. You know what? He's going to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I still think you're probably understating Samaje P. Ryan's early season role in this offense.
But in a month, you might agree with me.
Yeah, but that's why I actually asked you specifically. We're talking about a month. You're talking about today. You're making the claim for today.
Yes.
I think that's a place that you can get to, but it's going to take a few weeks to bear itself out.
Does it take Jaleel proving himself in pass protection?
Yes. I think
we can't answer that.
That's a big part of it. And I think it's also just him adjusting to regular season speed. I mean, as many wonderful things as he did out there in the preseason, remember, he was doing it against backups. So he's going to be facing, some more rigorous competition out there in week 1 than he saw when he was going against the end of the roster scrubs in Arizona and the number 2, number 3 defenses in San Francisco. So I'd say he's an amazing story, and I think there are going to be some good things coming for this young man. I just would put the stallion in the barn a little bit on the level that you're talking about.
And you know what I say? Giddy up, partner.
Okay, are we talking about what you want to see or what you think you'll see?
Both.
Okay, I think this is more what you want to see.
Okay. Well, we're fixing to find out, right?
Dad, you beat me to it.
Oh, there you go. Always
like
with Gary with the kick drum. Love Gary.
We're fixing to find out.
It solves everything.
I've used that in a lot of.
Most people say like it is what it is or whatever, which I personally can't stand. It is what it is. I don't know what it is, but it is what it is.
Well, the thing is, it is what it is has a negative connotation.
But we're fixing to find out. Could be positive.
Good, could be bad. You don't know. It's okay, and it's okay, and sometimes it's okay to not know what's next, and just say, "Well, we're gonna see."
Right.
And it's okay to say that we don't know. I think that another thing that bothers me about the business that you and I have chosen is the increasing desire to have us all be fortune tellers. Like, I mean, we're spitballing here,
right?
And we're going to make a prediction, but I mean, do we know if Russell Wilson's going to put things back together the way he had him in Seattle? We don't know.
Right.
The next 4 months are about finding all of that out.
And I will say that before we move on from Russ and the backs, Jarrett Stidham is zero threat to him. And I know there have been articles written, some by very respectable NFL writers. Jarrett Stidham is zero threat to Russell Wilson. Russ will have to get banged up. This whole year is about Russ. Can he fix it? Can you win enough? Can you win the right way with Russell Wilson? I think the answer is yes, but it's going to take him staying healthy. And I don't know that answer.
Yeah. Based on what we've seen from the protection, I'd say that plus Russ's ability to extend plays and thus expose himself to contact, I would expect we'll see Jarrett Stidham start a couple of games this year.
Yes.
But you know what? You go around the NFL for the last decade, the majority of backups end up playing some significant repetitions at some point during the regular season. A majority do. Just get used. So,
and sometimes they go on to win Super Bowls. So Jeff Hostetler,
Nick Foles,
right? And Trent Dilfer took over for Tony Banks.
Yeah, everyone forgets about Tony Banks.
Good old Tony Banks. Wasn't that a game against Denver? He got hurt in? If I'm misremembering that.
No. Because
you get hurt or you get benched for Trent.
Well, they didn't play the Broncos until the playoffs that year in 2000 on New Year's Eve.
Okay.
It was a midseason game. I forget who it was. Yeah, Tony Banks, the quarterback or the Genesis keyboardist.
The world may never know. No, we don't borrow each other's suits.
No, we have different tastes.
We do.
I'm more of a pattern person.
I'm more of a solids person. So there you go.
When it comes to foods, I like solids. As Homer Simpson's told no solids, but I love solids.
By the way, Simpsons trivia that'll trip you up.
Okay.
I guarantee you will not know this.
Alrighty. Lay it on me.
The brother of a very famous singer worked on The Simpsons. Can you tell me who the singer is?
No, tell me.
Gwen Stefani.
Okay.
Her brother left no doubt. because they were a ska band in California.
Yeah.
Eric Stefani. He left and became an animator on The Simpsons.
Ah, cool.
He actually put them in before they were popular,
Mhm.
before No Doubt was a thing. There are old Simpsons episodes where you could see Gwen and the rest of No Doubt, whoever the other guys are.
So this would have been like mid-90s.
Yes,
then,
yes, but he
like-
put them in as background characters.
Okay.
So it'd be like that, cool looking chick or whatever, and it was Gwen,
Interesting.
but it was her brother putting her in before Tragic Kingdom.
Okay. Yeah. So we're talking. It's got to be before like the.
We're talking like
season.
92, something like
We're
that.
talking. It's
Because
got
Tragic Kingdom was like 95.
Yeah, 95, 96, right around there.
I think there's a niner in there somewhere.
I feel like that. I feel like that was either sophomore or junior year of college. I don't know. Anyway.
Good times.
Yeah, those were the days.
Mm-hmm. Surprise picks for the Denver Broncos in fantasy. Maybe Marvin Mims. I want to see what Cortland Sutton can do without Jerry Jeudy because I wanted to see more. We'll say that. But perhaps Marvin Mims. And then people always ask me about the tight ends because people love Greg Dulcich. They love the hair, right? They love his game. Who would not love his game? He's a great receiving threat.
Who doesn't love the hair? I mean, it's straight out of the Weird Al Yankovic playbook.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Because he's bad. He's not fat. He's bad. He's a bad man. But Adam Troutman's there. So it's tight end by committee. And we know that the fullbacks, Burton's going to be involved. You're going to have a couple touchdowns from Burton this year. Maybe a couple touchdowns from Adkins this year. If we talk projections for numbers, of the 25 passing touchdowns that Russell Wilson throws this year, I could say, let's say 5 to Marvin Mims, about 5 to 7 for Cortland Sutton. Who knows when Jerry Jeudy's going to come back? That's a whole other conversation. That'll be on tomorrow's show. We'll have a little bit more information on Jerry Jeudy. But I think you're looking at Manhurts with 1 or 2. You're looking at Burton with a couple. Like, there are going to be ways that people you aren't expecting to get touchdown passes from Russell Wilson.
Okay. And so to go back to Mike Clay's projections on players who have touchdown receptions, okay? Javonte Williams 2, Samaje Perine 1.
Okay. Seems fair, right?
Jerry Jeudy 5, Cortland Sutton 6, Marvin Mims 3, Brandon Johnson 1, Philip Dorsett 1, Greg Dulcich 3, Adam Troutman 1, Chris Manhurts 1, and then let me see. Another 2 touchdowns is coming from other players. That's pretty reasonable. And I think
all that seems
some
fair.
of those numbers like may disappoint you, but
the Dulcich
if you're
one
spreading
was
it around,
3
touchdowns.
Fantasy gyms that get 3 touchdowns from Dulcich, but this is what you get. Mason and I have been telling you all training camp, like they're going to use all the tight ends. Give them all the cookies. Like, he wants all the meatballs and the pasta. I don't know.
That was Vic Fangio who always said that.
Oh,
yeah, but it's going to be work by committee. There's nothing wrong with that. But this team might be a fantasy football player's nightmare, which is another reason why I'm glad I don't play fantasy football.
Well, and all these committees.
When people ask these questions, now they ask you. They don't ask me anymore. I think that's glorious. Reality is more than enough for me to. Reality is, I'm going to start that again. Reality is more than enough, probably too much for me to handle in life. Basically, I don't need the fantasy element on top of it.
Well, and as a writer who owns his own independent comic book company, fantasy's where I live, baby. So
maybe it's appropriate that you're the station's fantasy expert.
I think so.
Yeah.
Wes says, can these Broncos score 24 to 30 a game? No.
Low end if they do that. 24
I think they score 21 a game. And I might be on the high end of the staff. You talk to people around here, they say they're going to score like 20 a game. I'm like, no, let's put it at 21. I think that's a fair number. 21 points a game. Not asking for too much. 24 is the league average now. I don't think they're going to score the league average.
Let's see. If they score 20, it's 340. If they score 21, that'd be 347. 22 would be
Are you doing math?
374. I'm doing math.
I was told there'd be no math involved.
I'm going to say 22 and a half points.
Woo!
300.
Okay.
So 380 points.
I'll take the under, but I hope they get your number.
Yep. Nate Albert says, are you sold on the kicker? I'm not. If they get pre-core muscle injury, Will Lutz, I'm sold on him.
Okay.
I think the important thing is that Sean Payton sold on him, which is why he's here.
Yes.
Trust is a very big factor for most coaches with kickers. Kickers are players of whom coaches don't want to think about. It's just, okay, we know your range, go out there, kick.
Mhm.
And clearly, Brett Maher never reached that level of trust with Sean Payton that Will Lutz had for those 5 seasons when he was Sean Payton's primary kicker in New Orleans. I think that's what it was about. Now Payton doesn't have to think about it. All right, I've got my guy that I trust. I'm good. Saints are still paying a good chunk of it, like because they've got prorated portion of the signing bonus that's still under the cap. I think his cap number remains higher in New Orleans than it is here. Of course, the Broncos have some dead money on Brandon McManus, who they cut back in May as well. So you kind of see how that works. And Lutz has an expiring contract. So
It's all a numbers game, right?
yeah, there are all sorts of layers to it, but I think Lutz will do fine.
We did leave out one fantasy asset. And by the way, on your Instagram videos, I've noticed your said you showed us the signal.
Stop
89
it.
Batman. I've noticed it though. I was like, either you're the itchiest man on the planet,
I do have an itch.
or you are gave us a signal.
I do have an itch.
There's one fantasy asset we've left out.
The
The Broncos defense.
Okay.
While they may be a nightmare offensively, you're not drafting Russ. Okay, don't draft Russ. If you're drafting Javonte, he's
Russ
more
was a
like an
backup in
RB2.
fantasy.
He's a backup.
Yeah.
Javonte's more like an RB2, maybe even flex play. Jalil's more of a what the heck flex. Samaj's more of a what the heck flex. Court, wide receiver 3. Jerry, wide receiver 2 if he's healthy.
It's not a dynamic fantasy team.
No, not at all. But defensively, the Broncos are a top 10 fantasy defense. And if they could add to the scoring, this is where we go back. And I believe the question was, Wes asked, can the Broncos score 25? Wait. Can I have an addendum to my answer?
You're saying that the Broncos, including
if the
defense
Broncos
and special
defense
teams,
can get you to 22, what'd you have, 24?
I said 22 and a half, but I was counting defense as part of all that.
Okay. If you count
everything.
defense, I think that your number is attainable.
22 and a half?
I think that's attainable if you count for defense.
Okay. Basically, if you're looking for a number, 380 points. 380. If they score 380 at the end of the season, that means this thing is working. And 380 at the end of the season, I don't know if it's going to mean playoffs or if it means that they just missed, but it means they'll be competitive.
Mace, can you believe we're here? It's the regular season.
I can. It feels like in training camp, it feels like it's dragging, but the truth is it just zips on by. Life zips on by in general.
They say years go by fast, days go by slow.
That's a good way of putting it. And now, that being said, there are some times it does seem to crawl, but it's when you're thinking about certain things. Like if you're looking forward to something, like many people are looking forward to the start of the regular season, it can seem like it crawls. But then you look back on the arc of it, it's like, oh, wow, that wasn't all that long. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of things that you can apply that to.
We are here, everybody. It is Raiders week. Mason and I will both be out at practice tomorrow. We'll both be, they have open locker rooms, so we'll both be in the locker room. Like we'll be providing you with your boots on the ground, Broncos coverage. You can only find it here. Orange and Blue Today, presented by Sean Pond. Are we done for today?
I think so. We're just past 4:00. It's a Broncos off day because it's a Tuesday.
Right.
I've got something else I've got to work on. You've got the show tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
I think
we're Mace. Good. I'm Cecil.
Move on with the rest of the day.
Everyone, thanks for watching. Do
Before
all those
we
YouTube
get too
things.
slappy.
Did Charlotte like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell?
I think she did.
Was that done at home?
I believe that was.
Everybody's home. We need you to do those things. Help us grow the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. He's Mace. I'm Cecil. OBT is a BFD. Until next time, stay frosty.